Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Little Modular. Today we are looking at the Delta V module by COSMOTRONIC. And for me, this is like a new version of maths, but more compact, more flexible, and cheaper. In essence, it's a dual envelope generator, but that's only on the surface. This could be a slew generator, this could be an FO, an oscillator if you drive it into the audio range. So right off the bat, you can see it's super flexible, but what makes it really special are those small additions, which are actually not that small if you think about the fact that it has two VCAs built in, for instance. So all of these functions make it a mainstay in my system, and I think this could find a place in any system, especially if you are a beginner and if you don't know what to get. Well, that would be definitely one of the first module I would get if I would be starting now. As I said before, it's a dual module, so we have two sides, left side and right side. They are identical. Starting from the top, we have the attack, release, control. Here we have the shape, so you can shape the envelope from the exponential, actually really like hyper exponential. Then it goes to the log and to linear, and you can see markings here around the pots. By the way, the pots are really nice. For me, the pots, the knobs are really important. I guess it's a kind of a fetish, but I really love the action, how smooth they turn, not too hard, not too soft. Down below on the left, we have the switch for LFO in the upper position and for the envelope in the lower position. We also have attenuverter here, so you can attenuate or even invert the signal with this. Again, super important, super useful in any modular system. Here in the middle, we have the link switch. On the first version, you had to change a jumper at the back of the module. Now it's a lot easier to link it, so if you input a trigger in here, it will also trigger the second side of the module. Here we have the inputs, so trigger input and a slew input for both sides, trigger and slew. Below we can actually CV control attack and decay, just like you would do on maths. We also have the VCA1 and VCA2. So if you input an audio signal or CV signal in here, this module will control this VCA, okay? And the result will come out here at the out. We also have end of cycle out and a sum out right here. We also have a really nice LEDs, not too bright, not too dim, just right, that show you the action of both of the sections. Looks really nice, it's flexible, the build quality is excellent. What about the envelopes? That's the most important part. And for me, it's A+, because these are one of the snappiest and most responsive envelopes I have came across in the modular world. Let's see how it works, okay? Let's start with the basic example. What I have here, I have DPO, which goes to UVCA, which is then controlled by the left channel of the Delta V. The channels are unlinked, and I'm providing the gate signal here from the eloquencer, which is also providing the 1 volt per octave information to the DPO. So a pretty simple arrangement. Right now you can see this LED right here showing us the activity, but we can't hear anything. Why? That's because here we have the attenuator knob turned all the way to the left. So we have some standard controls here. Attack, release, but also the shape. Okay, you can dial in a really sharp, edgy sound. Just click, so it's perfect for percussion, for instance. If you want to make some, kicks, snares with that super snappy, really fast. But you can also go to the linear mode. Of course, remember that the shape and the decay, they sort of work together. Okay, so there are tons of different shapes that could be found here. The range is really wide, and as I said, it's super responsive. I really like, the way it reacts to my moves. I can dial in the perfect shape quickly, and with the aid of the attenuator, it's even faster. Because if you are in this game for a while, you know that attenuation is the thing. The game is about attenuating stuff, okay? We don't want to go full Monty all the time. We don't want that modulation to be present at full all the time. You don't need an extra attenuating module, it's built in. But what I can do now, for instance, is use the second half of this module to modulate the filter which is fed with my DPO. In my case, this is COSMOTRONIC. So I can just stick the output of the second half, lower the filter, and engage the LFO here. You can change the shape and speed of the LFO with these knobs right here. Okay, more spiky, more relaxed. You can go into audio range modulation, of course, with some crazy stuff, like wobbly stuff. I personally love this kind of sounds. Okay, but we can return in the envelope mode and we can link it. So now the second channel is triggered by the first channel trigger, and you can hear the filter action being synchronized. So we have one trigger but different action on both of the sides. This one is triggering the VCA and this one is controlling the filter cutoff. Remember that we have the attenuator here, so we can attenuate this or invert the action. Again, really useful. Okay, let's come back to the first section, to the left section, because now this is the AD, okay? So we only have attack and decay. What if you want a sustain? It's really simple with that module, because you can just input the trigger into the slew part. So, as you can hear now, on the longer notes, on the longer gates, which are sent by the eloquencer, that would be equivalent of just pressing a key on the keyboard and holding it for a while. So, as long as you hold that key, or as long as that gate is present, we are getting the sustain portion. Now, another thing I could do is I could modulate the attack or decay. Let's do that. Okay, so it changes all the time. We can of course use the internal LFO of the second section, flick it to the upper position, connect the output of the second section to, let's say, decay, okay, or attack. And you can control the modulation depth with this knob right here. control different shapes of the LFO, the speed of the LFO. So this could also serve as a slew generator. I can connect an external LFO, like my quad LFO, to this slew input on the second section. And then with the aid of those controls here, I can control its shape that's going to my filter. Okay? And there are really dozens, if not hundreds, of different shapes and possibilities here. Okay. Now this is just a half of this story, because as I mentioned before, this module has two VCAs built in. What it means is that when you stick something into any of these VCAs, like VCA 1, then the envelope part starts to control these VCA, and then you have the output signal from the out. So what I've done here is I have connected a simple noise to the input VCA1 right there, and the other arrangement stays the same. So we are still triggering that with the eloquencer, and the output goes to the filter. And yeah, let's start the sequencer so you can hear it. And I can just use that as a standard controls. As you can hear, it goes really low to super small, tiny clicks. So you can construct any kind of percussion instruments with that. Hi-hats, snares, and so on. You just need a good filter, okay? Swells, even kicks, okay? If we now turn down the filter and turn up the Q, like so, you could have a very flexible kick arrangement. Down to some really bassy, overdriven 808 kicks. As you can hear. Okay, whoa, that's massive. Do some clicks and pops and anything in between. So now instead of a noise, I have connected an oscillator in here. In my case, this is the Bang oscillator by Livestock Electronics. Same principle. Okay. And again, we can use the second side for different effects to make it more dynamic, more evolving, crazy. Like I can use that in the LFO mode to modulate the attack. Like so. So it's less predictable. Of course, let's not forget about the modulation depth. Now things might get even more interesting if we use the end of cycle outs. This one right here and this one right here. What those do is that every time the module completes a cycle, it outputs a trigger. And we can utilize that in many ways. For instance, we can send that signal, that trigger, somewhere else into the system to synchronize that module to some other modules, but we can also cross-modulate both sections. What I have here is bang oscillator again, and I have connected the first out right here to the odd parameter, and now we have a steady LFO on the first section. But if I use the end of cycle from the second section and connect it to the trigger in on the first section, you can hear some really nice things going on. Likewise, we can connect end of cycle from the first section and connect it to trigger on the second section. To create even more mess. Okay. We can also try to experiment with different out. You can mix those two, of course, if you have a mixer. Okay. And you can try to use the sum out. For different combinations of those two sections. Okay, so how about using that as an oscillator? I have my first section in the LFO mode, okay, and it sounds like this on its own. You can change the pitch with that, but we want to put this in the VCA, right, normally. So what we do is, instead of going to a mixer or an external VCA, we can just connect that to the second section VCA2 right here, and then connect the output of that right there, and we can control this VCA2 with that envelope on the second half with the trigger again from Eloquencer. So here I can control my envelope, but here I can control the pitch of my oscillator. So as you can see, it's so much flexibility packed into such a small package. And as I have mentioned, it's so useful that it doesn't matter if you are a seasoned modularist or just starting out. It will find its way in any system, and it will be useful in any kind of patch I can imagine. So definitely check it out, see if you like it, and if you do or if you don't, please comment and let me know what you think about this module, because I find it just awesome. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.